Ponytails. Read by Scribbler. Fleeting Fancies by the Quill and Sofa Shop. Luna curled into a ball on her bed, staring down at the pool of moonlight she had collected. Celestia's face was reflected in it as she addressed the Cancelot elite at the Nightmare Night Masquerade.
In honor of the great services my beloved sister has done Equestria, I hereby declare this eve to be no longer Nightmare Night, but Luna's Eve. An evening to celebrate all she has done.
Luna smiled at her sister's latest attempt to make Luna more included in equestrian life. Only 2 weeks ago had she set up a special court just for her sister to preside over, and a few weeks before that, Celestia had launched a nationwide campaign to have all school books which had the legend of Nightmare Night in them burned, and have new ones with Luna's return replace them. It's all very kind, but I'm still curled up in my bedchambers, Luna thought wryly to herself. She could not bring herself to leave, could not bring herself to face Ponykind and expect them to forgive her as her sister seemed to.
Careful. If you stay lost in thought long enough, you'll lose your way back down here.
Long ago, Luna might have jumped, startled over this. But now a grin unfurled on her face as she turned to look at the white stallion on her bed. He was a barely recognizable Fancy Pants, his monocle gone, his suit unbuttoned and tie loose. His hair had lost its usual gel and was like a brilliant blue flame. "Now, how could I get lost when I have you to weigh me back down to Equestria?" she teased him lightly. "So, Mr. Pants, how did you get in?" Fancy Pants grinned. This was perhaps the favorite of the games he played.
Why, you must guess, Princess.
In a matter of seconds, Luna's well-trained eyes raked over the entire room, noticing every minute detail. She had the room in perfect order memorized and could spot every small detail, every flaw, including the 2 misplaced books on the bookshelf on the east wall. Luna immediately levitated the books off the shelf, before levitating all of the books along the bookshelf away, looking to see if there was some sort of secret passageway behind it.
Not your strongest, my dear Princess,
Fancy Pants said softly. It was the first time that he had been able to fool Luna.
You immediately went for the red herring I placed in the books, too preoccupied to notice that there was still residual magic on the doorknob, and that you could hear the creak of the door opening only moments ago.
Luna dropped the pile of books and turned to Fancy Pants. At first, her expression was hardened as she pursed her lips and glared at him, hating how easily he had manipulated her. Yet, after a moment, she let her mask crumble down and allowed a giggle at her own foolishness. "Very clever of you, Mr. Pants," Luna said tightly, not wanting to show too much emotion. "Since you won the entry game, you may choose the next one. What would you like to play?" Fancy Pants considered her words for a moment, a proud smirk never leaving his face.
Have you ever played hide-and-seek, Princess?
Luna's eyes narrowed in further annoyance. "You mean the Foals and Fillies game?"
Why, yes. I find as an adult there is greater joy in playing it. I will hide, you will seek. I have 60 seconds to hide, you have 60 seconds to seek. You can use any skill at your disposal to do so. I will not leave the perimeters of this room. Does that sound fair?
"Why are we playing this?" Luna asked, a resigned tone in her voice.
I'll just play along. I did win the entrance game, after all.
Luna sighed and let Fancy Pants conjure a simple blindfold and tie it around her eyes. She counted loudly, feeling quite idiotic and foolish as she listened for Fancy Pants's hoofsteps. Once the 60 seconds were up, she tore off the blindfold and looked around the room. At first glance, it appeared there was no change, as if Fancy Pants had never been there. It briefly occurred to Luna that he might have fled, but she could not fathom a reason why and pushed these unsavory thoughts out of her head. Luna's bedchamber was grandiose, with an enormous closet and dresser, as well as several chests in which she kept her things from the ancient world. The enormous bed took up the central third of the room. Luna lifted the bed, her sharp eyes examining the floor. As she lifted the bed, she could feel external magic pulling against hers and set it down. The sheets of Luna's bed were weaved from moonlight itself, powerful magic bringing it into solidified form. With a simple spell, the moonlight was cast away, revealing Fancy Pants curled up inside it, his white coat blending in excellently. He lay splayed across the bed, grinning foolishly.
Why, it seems I have been bested, Princess,
he said, not sounding particularly bothered by this.
Care to join me?
Luna's entire body stiffened at the prospect of lying in the same bed as another pony. Her eyes narrowed once more at Fancy Pants's insolence, but greater curiosity and desire overcame her, and she climbed into the bed, sitting as far away from him as possible. She was grateful the bed was so large. As she sat, she summoned the moonlight streaming in through the window, manipulating it into solid form before placing it on the bed as sheets once more. The moonlight conformed to their bodies, hiding them from the flank down.
Why so far away, Princess?
Fancy Pants inched slightly closer to Luna. "Do not test me," she said, jaw locked. "I am only here because this is my bed, and despite my best efforts for the past year, I have been unable to force you to leave my premises. Well, without resorting to measures my sister would not approve of."
I didn't realize I was such a burden, Princess.
Fancy Pants said, amusement dripping from his tone.
I rather thought you enjoyed our time together. I have seen the look of triumphant glee whenever you best me in our little games.
"They are but foolish fancies, and the joy of triumph and the crush of defeat is a fancy also. Fancies, in nature, are fleeting, and the overwhelming feeling remains the same. You are a fancy in your own right, Mr. Pants. Perhaps your parents were not so foolish in naming after all."
Oh, ever the eloquent one, Princess.
Fancy Pants said, a hint of admiration in his tone.
Yet your eloquence in speech does not disguise your lack of true understanding. Is it not fancy, fleeting or true, that sustains pony kind? We cannot live on unhappiness. We must take solace in our own fancies. And when they flee, we must find new ones, or else we shall sink into despair.
"I would rather be sustained on love, strong and true, rather than fancies. If I was built on fancy, I might just float away, for there will be nothing holding me down to earth," Luna retorted. "I am surprised you haven't simply risen up on a hot day, going higher and higher until you crashed into my sister's beloved sun." Fancy Pants let out a light chuckle.
Perhaps spending time with you has been weighing me down enough to stay firmly planted here.
"That would certainly explain why you feel the need to creatively break into my room every evening." There was a moment of silence.
I would not be able to break in unless you let me. I do know that you have called off your night guards so that they will not attack me. I pay attention to the castle gossip.
A pregnant pause. "You are insolent, Fancy Pants." The white stallion glanced over at Luna and offered her a genuine smile, one of the few he had ever given.
And yet, that is why you enjoy my company. The thrill of a challenger.
"You do not challenge me." Luna turned away haughtily, her undulating mane brushing against Fancy Pants's face.
Then how is it that I win our little games?
"On occasion." Fancy Pants laughed.
Princess, You have told me of your opinions on music, on art, on fiction, on nature and society.
As he said these words, his horn levitated the wine bottle, and he poured red wine into a couple of glasses, one floating towards Luna, the other for himself.
Yet, we have never discussed poetry.
I abhor it, Luna said. She took a sip from her wine glass.
So, if we were to have a poetry contest, I would win.
Fancy Pants said, winking. We are not having a poetry contest. Poetry is yet another foolish fancy. Any poet can better express themselves in normal, rational words. Poetry is for the weak of mind.
So, you are simply not good at it.
Luna drained her wine glass. Do not test me, Mr. Pants, she repeated, glaring at him.
She trots on beauty like the night, of starry skies and cloudless chimes. Have you heard that one, Princess?
Fancy Pants asked.
I do not know if there is a better way to phrase those words.
Merely speaking of a mare's beauty is an insult to her, Luna snarled.
Perhaps to a mare like you.
Fancy Pants said.
Perhaps I should try an original composition.
I hardly think that anything you have composed would convince me of poetry's worth. A pony should be able to express herself using rational thought.
My love is moonlight, streaming through the window, casting its shy gaze upon the empty bed. My love is sunlight, brilliant in its sight, great in its scope, air and life itself pausing to soak in her warmth. My love is candlelight, gently flickering against a stack of well-worn books on my bedside table, comforting me throughout the night, laughing at my inability to sleep without it. My love is fire's light, an eruption of sights and sounds, fierce in nature, powerful in destruction, unable to be extinguished by any fool or foal. My love is starlight, bright eyes twinkling with mischief and wit, a constant shimmer, destroying darkness, letting love shine through.
Luna opened her eyes. There was a long pause. That poem was passable. Fancy Pants laughed. That was Fleeting Fancies. It was written by the Quill and Sofa Shop and read by Scribbler, with special guest voice actors Goombasa as Fancy Pants and Heavenstare as Celestia. Right, as ever, thank you very, very much for listening. Also, as ever, please go and check out the channels of my collaborators. Goombasa, if you've been listening to my channel for any sort of time, you will know that Goombasa is one of my favourite collaborators. He's just a joy to work with, not to mention Speedy. And also this week we have a newcomer, Heavenstare, who is a really, really talented voice actress, and you should very much check out her channel and all the wonderful videos she has there. Speaking of Goombasa, this week I was in a comic collaboration with him. I am putting the link in the description, and it is called Sticking to the Script. It's a slightly saucy comic dub, wherein I've collaborated with Goombasa, who's edited it all. Edited it all. I cannot get that friggin' word right. Something to do with the shape of my teeth or my accent or something, but edited is a word I cannot say without having to slow down and sound like a moron. After that little non sequitur, Goombasa has edited this comic dub, and he's done a brilliant job, and it features my voice and the voices of I Am Shoutout 007 and the Lost Narrator, which are like some of my favourite people. So this was just a truckload of fun to do. It's very, very short, but please, please, please go and check it out. I disagree totally with the last comment. Just saying. Apple Dash forever. Also this week, I was reviewed by the wonderful Archsage, and I'm going to provide a link to that below as well on his Tumblr, and he reviewed my fanfiction, which I wrote, The Language of Stars. Fairly certain I've got the grammar wrong in that sentence, but whatever. And with that, I shall love you and leave you, and also ask you to check out the other video that I've put up today, which is a link to a very special project that Solar has done with one of my fanfictions called Twilight Sparkle Plays with Dolls. Just to go and take a look at what he's done. It is amazing! Be lovely to each other, and good night, everybody.